welcome everyone again. This is Ted Schmidt, Action Coach Northwest, and we are doing another one of our business community podcasts for the Greater Spokane Coeur d'Alene community here. And today our guest is Bobby Enslow. He's founder and co-owner of Indaba Coffee. So welcome, Bobby. Thank you for being on our podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump right in here and get some of your insights on owning a business, and really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I got my notepad ready and I'm ready to take notes. So here we go. Okay, so question number one. If you had to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
So thinking about this question, I feel like there's several different answers. I thought that I did all the right things, coming out of WSU, getting my MBA and everything, writing the business plan, all those, doing all the things that checking the boxes that you were told to do. But I feel that some of the stuff that that I wish I would have known then is being willing to adapt and change quickly. I think one of the troubles with young entrepreneurs like I was is you think that your business plan is perfect and you've got it all figured out and it's going to work and it's going to do the thing. And I think having that willingness to as soon as as soon as you open those doors, you almost kind of have to throw your business plan out the window a little bit in terms of like being willing to adapt to the market quickly and customer feedback. And so having that customer feedback loop and having that openness to listening to the community. I feel like I wish I would have had that a little bit sooner in the life of Indaba. I would say it took a few months. Like we did get there where we're like, you know what, we got to listen to our customers. But I would say that looking back, listening to your customers from day one, super important.
Listen to your customers. I like that.
Yeah. And community, right? Like we're a community. So,
yeah, there you go. All right. Okay. Okay. Next question. What have your biggest learnings been as an employer since you began in business?
It's kind of cliche, but it's the like, hire slow, fire fast kind of mentality. And there's always exceptions to that kind of general standpoint, but I think organizational cultures is a huge part of the coffee industry and the coffee shop and hospitality industry. And so taking the time to really make sure that a person's a really good fit for the organization and having very clear mission and values. And sometimes even with all of the recruiting and hiring and that whole interviewing process, people slip through that's just not quite the right fit. And so learning in the early days, I felt bad. Like I didn't want to have to let anybody go and use the F word, and say, oh, you're fired or whatever. But learning, especially like one of our core values is loving people well, right? And so learning that it actually is loving our team well, loving our organization well. If someone's not a good fit, to make sure that that person is able to move on. And it's actually better for that person as well to learn sooner rather than later that, hey, this isn't a good fit for the organization. We wish you the best of luck and wherever you're going, but it's not working out. And I've experienced, early on as a young entrepreneur and manager of kind of letting that drag on too long and all of the consequences of that, toxic work environment, just the drama that it creates. And, I've been doing this too long. I just don't like the drama, so anything you can do to minimize drama. And so, again, it's kind of cliche sounding, but hire slow, fire fast, but make sure you have some healthy boundaries and healthy, things in place so that you can keep your organizational culture strong. Especially we're at up to 39 plus team members now. So four different locations. So each location has kind of its own ethos, but just making sure you're working closely with the store and the store leadership to make sure that the organizational culture is healthy and strong and the team is operating well.
Would you be willing to share an example of when they slipped through the cracks, they got into your organization, and you found out they weren't a fit, and what you did, how you handled it?
Well, I mean, if they're with our organization long enough, we have a 30, 60, and 90-day, check-ins, right? And
Right.
so that's our opportunities to say, here are some things that we've identified, because we do want to give people the benefit of the doubt. We do want to do our best to equip them. We've already invested the time and energy to recruit them and see if they're a good candidate. If by the end of that 90 days, it's really tempting, especially as a small mom and pop, to hold on to people, because we've invested in them. It's relational. And then, and sometimes we feel, especially post COVID, and during COVID, but especially even still post COVID, like we feel like we're understaffed. Like we have this sense of like, oh man, we need people. But kind of fighting that. And by that 90 days, like if it's not a fit, like, we have to make the decision to say, see you later. If for some reason they've slipped past those check marks, then it does turn into more of a situation where we do have a disciplinary action plan where it's like, okay, there's coaching, there's steps that we follow. And I think by
Right.
being very clear from day one on our orientation of like what those steps look like, and being very clear from day one that like it's our goal and our heart to equip you with all the tools that you have, that you need to succeed. And I tell them it shouldn't be a surprise if you end up getting let go. Like it shouldn't come out of left field. It should be pretty clear that things for some reason aren't working out. Like it's usually not a skill-based thing. It's usually some sort of just fit in the organizational culture. Uh,
Mhm.
and so it can be pretty clear that, hey, like these are the reasons why, and we're able to let them go. But really, we kind of give ourselves that 90 days. Within those 90 days, if you're not on top of it and you're not able to catch it within the 90 days, it does become exponentially more difficult to get that person transitioned out of the organization. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's a lot of the reason I followed up on that is a lot of business owners with that challenge, and they struggle with it. They really do.
well,
So
and you have to have a very clear process, I think, is the key that's communicated to everyone. Because no matter what you do, I found that even when you let people go, it's really easy for rumors to fly. It's really easy for, there to be, a weird sense from the team, of like, man, they're just letting people go, or like, and you don't ever want fear to penetrate the organizational culture. You want people to feel secure in the organization and that they're doing well, and there's that sense of safety, as Simon Sinek talks about, like, so you want to make sure that the organization, there isn't that sense of fear, because that'll cause people to really not work effectively as a team, and worry more about themselves rather than the team. So yeah.
yeah, well, if they're not meeting expectations, I mean, you got to do something. So that's, yeah.
True.
All right, great insights there. Thank you. Okay. Next question. What are some common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you address them?
Oof. Common misconceptions about running a business. Uh, I we just had one. So one of our baristas, she has grown up to start her own business, and so she has her own drive-through business. And she reached out and just kind of venting a little bit, and sharing her experiences. Uh, and she made the comment like she went into business because she wanted to be able to set her own schedule and have the
Yeah.
flexibility and things. And I'm like, there is that kind of joke that I would throw out there that the business owns you. You don't own the business. And there's a little bit of truth to that, especially if you're in this type of industry where, there's employees that got to show up. And if the
Yeah.
employees you show up and you're a small business owner, well, then you got to show up. Otherwise, you're not making any money,
Right.
So,
Retail, right? Yeah.
yeah. So I think that there's a little bit of a misconception that, you're going to open up a coffee shop and you can just sit back and, cash the checks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh, Open up a restaurant, open up any kind of business, really, right? There's this perception. But I think the reality is that takes a significant amount. Like you can get to that point, but even after doing this for 15 years, I worked Saturday and Sunday this last weekend because all these people were getting the flu and pneumonia. And again, I got to keep the doors open. And so I go in and I wash dishes and I make a little bit of coffee and I keep the doors open. And, even after 15 years of doing this, and because the reality is like, you know, it's my business and it's what I rely on to provide for my family. And if you genuinely care about it, like you're
Yeah.
to be there to do it. And crap happens and it is what it is. But yes, I do
Yeah.
get to schedule family vacations periodically and do the things. But I think the most rewarding part is that you're able to build something that you can call your own and take pride in, and you can see the effects, especially, we take a lot of pride in the positivity we can give out into the community and give back. So
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I hear that a lot. People don't realize how much work it is to own a business. You actually have to work. So,
yeah.
okay. Been there, done that. All right. Next question. What do you attribute your growth to?
From the very beginning, we've been very focused on giving back to the community. Our origin story, if you will, is going into the poorest neighborhood in the state of Washington and trying to be a positive, force for good. And I think that has really, um, come back around, to support us. And we've won a few awards along the way, and that's all great and good. But I think at the end of the day, it's just the genuine heart for Spokane. I grew up in Spokane, being a
Mhm.
locally owned mom and pop business, and and people seeing me coming in on a Saturday and working, and they see me behind the bar still, even after 15
Yeah.
years, and they're like, "Aren't you like the big honcho or something?" I was like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
but." It's my business and it provides for my three kids and my family
Sure.
and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy being in the community, and that's why I got into this line of work too. Like I like being, in the community, meeting my neighbors, meeting fellow business owners, meeting, and being out in the community. And so um yeah, I think that that's really attributed to our growth as people see that, and there is more of a consumer awareness of where their dollars are going. And it might, a cup of coffee at our shop might cost, a little bit more, but they're seeing that it's going, it's staying local and it's supporting quality product. And uh,
Sure.
yeah, so
Yeah. That's awesome. Give it back. It comes around, goes around.
yeah,
Law of reciprocity, all that. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business? You just said you had to work Saturday and Sunday last week. So,
yeah. My wife's over there laughing,
yeah.
uh, as she's over there doing the work while I'm on here.
Yeah.
No, I think there's that book that everyone needs to read, the E-Myth, and
Yeah.
I think that that's a really important book to understand the importance of setting up systems, the importance of, you know the simplest way to kind of summarize the book is like almost treat your small business as a franchise. Like if you were trying to create a franchise, what are all the systems that you'd have to put in, and creating your org charts. And my wife has been the biggest part of that, is building those systems coming out of administrative work, and kind of
Mhm.
um balancing out my entrepreneurial side. And you know
Yeah.
I'm the gas pedal and trying to build and grow. And she's like, okay, well, we got to slow down, we got to make sure we're building the
She's the
system.
brake pedal. Yeah. Yeah.
And the systems are important. And even we just opened this new location this summer, here on 2020 North Monroe. And even though we've opened, this will technically be our like ninth location we've opened, there's just still like every location, every new neighborhood we go in, there's a lot of things to learn, a lot of little bugs, a lot of little, and you've got to be on it and creating systems and following up. And then you go through different seasons where, okay, like things are locked in, things are running smooth. You'll have employees, for a certain set amount of time. And then, oh, those employees graduate college. And then you kind of go through that cycle again of like, okay, we're back in it and doing the things. And so I think just, manage your time, not losing hope, that, hey, like it isn't always going to be like this. And so, doing your due diligence to plan. One of my early problems in the beginning is I like to just get in the trenches and just work through it. And then an old manager of mine, just really taught me the value of, hey, sometimes you just need to take a step back and actually kind of plan out, your strategery. you know, you got
Strategery?
to kind of strategize a
Now
little
that a
bit,
word
Bob.
is strategery a word?
Yeah, get the strategery. Otherwise, yeah, like I would really get just kind of stuck, right? Like you could just kind of get stuck on the front lines, and sometimes, you have that band of brothers moment where you have to take a step back and you're in leadership and you gotta set a plan and a strategy, and that's what my wife really brought to the team of like, okay, let's do that. Let's create some systems. Um, and that also helps with the mental side of knowing that, hey, there is a goal in mind. There is a
Yeah.
path, and I'm not just in the daily grind of making coffee and, doing it over and over again. Like we actually have kind of a path.
So work on the business, not just in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to slow down to speed up, this
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Great insights. Yeah, that's so true. So true. Okay. What qualities do you look for in employees, and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment?
Well, specifically in our industry in specialty coffee, we have our four cafes in Spokane, and then we also have an e-commerce business. In the cafes, we're definitely looking for people who have an innate sense of hospitality. Uh, this last round here at Monroe, specifically, I kind of leaned into that really hard of like, I'm not going to look at coffee experience as much as I am going to look at their personality, their values, and how are those aligning with ours. And I
Mm.
think it's been a huge win. People have been really responsive to our staff here. Um, we're experiencing the back end of it of like, okay, we've got a lot of people new to the industry or new to coffee, and so we're doing a lot of continuous training and continuous reintegrating of systems and reminding them of the things. But we've definitely not had a problem in terms of the customer service, in terms of people coming back, in terms of the vibe. And like you go into a coffee shop, you want to have a specific vibe and a feeling. I was told that people will always remember the way that you make them feel, and
Yeah.
that's so important in the hospitality industry, especially first impressions, a new location, new neighborhood. Every person coming in has got to feel like that's their new shop, that's their new coffee, that's their new hangout. On the e-commerce logistical side, you're looking at people that are maybe a little bit more introverted versus extroverted, detail oriented. I mean, we have a lot of like, packing slips to go through, making sure there's a level of attention to detail. And so it's interesting having kind of essentially two businesses in one, where we're managing
Mm.
e-commerce and, hundreds of thousands of pounds of coffee going through and being shipped out in orders with all these little, line items. Um, and what's funny is that the people that are in that work center kind of came out of the cafes. So you have a lot of extroverted people kind of in leadership and working their way into the roastery, uh, that really the KPIs in the roastery are efficiencies. And then you have people that like to talk and socialize. So it's been really
Ah,
interesting learning experience, and seeing that, oh, the workforce needs or qualities are a little bit different. And this is a newer, side of the business that we're scaling post COVID. We pivoted to, as I mentioned before, the word pivot, was the word of
right,
2020. And
right.
we're still learning, and that was part of moving into this facility. Is it quadrupled our roasting capacity and our space to grow and hear and scale. But I'm learning a lot. I feel like a young entrepreneur again of like, oh man, what are all the things? So I got to play this video back and listen to my own advice. And
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of times, I think what you're saying is it sometimes, there's people focused and there's task focused. And you
yes,
have one business that's more task focused and one business that's more people focused, that you have to figure that out and navigate that as an owner. And yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, I love
It's
that.
fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay. All right. Wow, we're sailing through. Okay, second to last question. What question should I be asking you that I haven't?
Do you like getting up and going to work every day? I think that's a good question to ask a entrepreneur or a small business owner. And I would say, yeah. I mean, I think every day there's new problems to solve. And so as a small business owner, entrepreneur, you've got to enjoy solving problems. And even after 15 years in this industry doing this job, you would think that I've heard or seen all the things that you could hear or see. No.
No.
Something new happens and you're like, oh, that's okay. Well, let's figure it out. And I think if you don't like solving problems, you should not go into business for yourself. I'm constantly having to figure out, well, that broke. How do I fix that? That isn't working the way that it should be working. How do I, from a human side, how do I fix that? And so if you get discouraged by that, it can be really taxing on you if you don't like, coming across, and it's interesting because my wife comes from a background of like, you go into work and you know what you're going to do, and then you can clock out and leave. And so it's been a transition for her, the last few years when she left her main career to come and make it a true family business is like, yeah, it kind of, you don't know you have what your day is going to look like sometimes. And so you kind of have to embrace and approach your work day with a sense of curiosity. And it's like, I wonder what today's going to bring, and get up and be excited to go and tackle it. So,
Yeah, it's really hard if you don't like it. It makes it even harder,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's very true. I've heard that from many business owners. So excellent. Great answer. Okay. Last one. Here we go. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And any words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow their business?
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of great tidbits. I think the biggest thing, so 5 years from now, I would love to, man, I would love to be about double the size that we are now. So we have the room to grow, to be about double the volume that we're doing in terms of the coffee, roasting facility and the coffee business side. I think that would give us the bandwidth to really focus on my passion, which is supporting. So I announced this last year that we're not going to be growing any more physical locations in terms of cafes, and our focus is really going to be more about empowering and supporting other entrepreneurs that want to start their own coffee businesses. And so launching a coffee school, launching a consulting program where we can specifically cater to young entrepreneurs that want to get into coffee roasting or coffee shops. And really kind of that, I found that really those locally owned coffee shops are the ones that are the most impactful in a community. And for me, it's really like, how am I impacting neighborhoods and communities to be better places? And if I can do that through helping these young coffee shop entrepreneurs or coffee entrepreneurs from making the same mistakes that I made, that is kind of my next 5 years. So 5 years from now, I'm hoping that I have a good group of folks that I can mentor and support, and some clients that I can continue to help them grow their businesses. So I'm super excited to transition into. Speaking of which, what's some good advice for those looking to grow their business? Couple of things. I think circling back to the beginning of the podcast of listening to your customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, reminding myself from day one, I think sometimes we forget. So I don't know if it's becoming complacent or whatever the proper word would be, but so take a moment, just take a step back to listen to your customers, get some feedback, regroup.
Do you have an example of that, of when you've done that? kind of give somebody, context?
I think, I get that a lot from just, I mean, going in and covering a sick shift and having to
Yeah.
work by, but like, naturally in our business, we're customer facing in the cafes, right? So in the
Right.
cafes, it's really easy for me to, hey, I'm going to go work a barista shift. I'm going to talk to the customers. And that's very organic for us. Depending on the industry, I think, you might need to be a little bit more formal about it. And even actually, it's a good reminder of me. I mean, we've got thousands of people on our list, our emails and text messages and stuff of maybe doing something more formal where it's like, hey, like we really want to serve you guys well. And how can we be your coffee shop? What are we doing that maybe you don't like so much, or what are we not doing that you would love to see us start doing? Like I think if we're not, posturing ourselves with that level of humility and maintaining that level of humility and, which is funny because I'm pretty sure Steve Jobs' approach was completely opposite of that. I think
Yeah.
if I remember reading, it was he got the smartest people in the room from every industry, and then he basically told the consumer what they wanted. I don't know if that's the reality of like everyday business owners, or like not all of us can be Apple with what you're trying to do. So I think I learned from my dad, who was an entrepreneur and small business owner. He was really big into listening to his customers,
Mm.
um, and yeah, he would have like little surveys or little clipboards out for customers to fill out, and he would personally call all of those people that wrote on there. If he brought a new product in that he didn't carry before, he would personally call that customer. So I think
Mm.
not forgetting like the personal relational level that we are as a business, like at the end of the day, we're in the people business, as we're selling them cups of coffee, bags of coffee, but not forgetting that like, we are in the people business, in the community building business. And people will purchase, and follow brands that they have that feeling associated with, that personal feeling associated with. And my dad did a really good job of modeling that for me, of genuinely caring about his customers, genuinely caring about his employees. And so I think if you want to grow your business, like you help your employees grow, you help serve your customers better, find better ways to do that. And I think your business will just naturally grow with that. Be careful at just throwing a whole bunch of money at something. I think that's where there's some potential pitfalls. Like, don't just throw a whole bunch of money at advertising or maybe even like a new product development. Like, throw a whole bunch of money at that without actually listening to your customers. Like, I remember when Starbucks launched. I remember we did a case study in school. They launched sipping chocolate, and they thought that it was going to be the shiz, and they were going to make a ton of money, and we're going to be the first to launch, sipping chocolate. And the day before it launched in their bajillion stores, worldwide, a health study came out talking about how it was horrible for their, and all this stuff. And they lost all these millions of dollars of equipment and product and marketing and all these things. I don't think they really listen to their actual customers. I think they again pulled a kind of Steve Jobs move of like, we're just going to launch this and then tell the market that they need it. And same thing they actually did recently with I think it was called their Oleo olive oil latte thing. Completely flopped.
Mm.
It was another example of them trying to tell the market what they needed rather than actually listening to their customers and having that relationship, and responding and meeting those needs. I mean, that's the basics of business, right? Like the trading of goods and services. Like, oh, you want something and I can provide it, and sweet, I'll provide that, and it's a win-win for the community and for the consumer and us as a business. And I think I just sent out a little thing on Instagram just because I had this thought. It's the new year. I wonder what our customers are, and they were like, "Hey, we'd love to see live music." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's funny because I've already been working on that." So it just kind of
There
gave a
you
little
go.
bit extra fire of like, okay, this is something that customers are wanting, and so how do we, you know, especially as a small business owner, we have very limited amount of R&D budget, if any. So
Right.
we can just throw money at the wall and see what sticks. Like, we've got to be very clear on how we're spending our money and our time and energy, and I think that's the secret is, the secret, not so secret, is just ask your customers what they want,
Yeah, excellent. Well done. All right, great insights today. Thank you, Bobby Enslow, founder and co-owner of Indaba Coffee. Thank you very much for being a part of our podcast today. And I'm sure everybody's got a lot of insights, great insights to learn from today's session. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.